All right, guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to be going over an article here, and the title of the article is called Feminism Has Destabilized the American Family. And so this article here talks about how where in the 1970s, some of these leading feminists, basically what they were all about and what they thought how things should go with regards to women and the American family and things like that. And it talks about how basically how it starts out with their ideas and so forth, and them obviously getting a following. But then it leads into the reality of how things are today, where you have a great deal of single mothers. They're unbelievably unhappy, raising children, how so many children now, because they're in a single parent household, obviously they don't have the same, it's not the same as it was a few generations ago when they had two parents and there was a balance between the female energy and the male energy and things like that. And it also talks about how you have so many women now that are obviously older in their 30s and 40s and are single and haven't been married, aren't happy about that, and just what they thought, in their opinion, these feminists in the 70s, how things should be, and the people that inevitably followed it, now it's obviously backfiring. So I'm going to start off the article, and it says here, in 1970, three furious feminists tracks dominated the bestseller list. Kate Millett's Sexual Politics, Germaine Greer's The Female Eunuch, and Shumala Firestone's The Dialect of Sex. They and others who compromised what they then called the Women's Lib movement fulminated against male dominance, endorsed sexual liberation, and demanded that the nuclear family be smashed. Yeah, there's definitely some furious women here. And the sad thing is, they appealed to so many, and look what happened. It says here, their fame has faded, thank God, but their influence lives on. That is true. Lena Dunham, who has built a persona as a spokesman for women, I like how this is spokesman, not spokesperson, wondered how any woman could reject the label feminist. And it says in parentheses, a 2016 poll found that 68% of women use the term to describe themselves. I think a lot of women these days don't entirely get what that term really means anymore. They have the idea they think it means, but there's the idea what it really is. It says here, her free-floating contempt for men was evident in a recent tweet, and she's quoted as saying, this is no joke, guys, I'd honestly rather fall into 1 million manholes than have one single dude tell me to watch my step. That is one angry girl. I'd like to know what happened to her to cause her to be that angry, have that much venom towards men. My God. And somebody wants to follow someone like this? Come on here. I mean, that's just pure hate. Note the resentment even when men are attempting to be kind. Dunham is voicing the 21st century version of the 1970s slogan, a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Without denying the beneficial effects of feminism, we are overdue for a reckoning about its missteps. One of those was stoking such bitterness between men and women. While there is near universal agreement that women should be treated equally in the workplace and in the family, other aspects of the feminist agenda, such as devaluing marriage, have left women more, not less, vulnerable than they were pre-revolution. In 2012, Katie Roffey, feminist and mother of two children by different fathers, condemned concerns about single motherhood. And she's here is quoted saying, if there is anything that currently oppresses the children, it is the idea of the way families are supposed to be. That's the feminist mantra, but alternative families work only for a tiny minority. That's true. For most women, children, and as we're coming to understand better with each passing year, men, the traditional family remains the gold standard. I'm not in the business of telling anybody how to live their lives, because I feel that if you want to live your life a certain way and you're not causing any harm to anybody else by anything that you say, any physical, mental, or psychological harm to anybody, you want to live your life the way you want to live to make you happy. In a free country as the United States, that is how things should be. But there are certain things that are set in place definitely for a reason. And generally the traditional family, if it's a positive environment for children and so forth really seems to be the best way to go about. I'm not saying it's the only way. There are obviously different types of families out there, and I've known people that have grown up in different types of families, single parents or things like that. And the kids turned out pretty well. But I think the common thing is obviously having genuine love and also balance. But it seems to me that, as obviously, and you're going to see in this article and what I've observed, the more you have one parent household running, raising the children, it's not balanced out, and especially, for instance, with boys, if it's a household with the mother's, she's raising the kids and so forth, and the father is not there very much, it's going to have an impact no matter what, okay? But it's definitely going to have an impact on boys. And some may argue saying, oh, the mother, she can do just as good of a job as a dad. Well, I've known a lot of single moms raising boys, and they jokingly refer to themselves as mama bears, and a lot of them are. And what typically happens is the moms are so strong for their children, and especially the boys, I think it's great they want to do that for their boys, but a lot of times they're too strong. A lot of times they don't step back when they need to let the boy grow into a man. And the boys oftentimes become kind of little wimps. They really do. And I've seen this a lot of times. And they get used to having a woman tell them what to do. And they don't have the strength that they would if they had a father there giving that male influence. Because a lot of times let's be honest here, in the households, like, for instance, where I grew up, my dad was tough on me while my mother was soft on me. While my dad was soft on my sister and my mother was tougher on my sister. So you had that balance. And in a situation where you could have a single parent household where, say, the mom, she's raising the boy, she'll let him get away with certain things that the father wouldn't allow, because men obviously understand what it's like to be a man or a boy and what it takes to raise a man. And so there's times when the boy might be acting kind of like a little wimp or crying, or just he's going off the path, so to speak. The father will come in and read him the riot act and give him a good kick in the ass when he needs it in all stages of development. But that may not happen, and I've seen this a bunch of times. So if somebody doesn't like what I'm saying, number one, tough shit. But number two, I've observed this. I've seen this lots of times in family, friends, and things like that. So balance, there's a reason there's a term called balance. You need that balance. So going on to say, she says here, it should not be anti-feminist to recognize that men and women do need each other, and that, contrary to feminist theories, marriage is a key pillar of stability for both sexes, and especially for children. Feminists greeted unwed parenthood and easy divorce as steps on the ladder of liberation. For some, it was and is, but the price has been steep. Women are commonly worse off financially after divorce than their ex-husbands. Well, it seems to me in this day and age, women make up pretty darn well after a divorce. I mean, let's be honest here. The courts definitely favor the women in terms of they get the great deal in terms of alimony. They generally get the house, the car, the kids, the dog, and the cat. I just did a video the other day about the singer Adele and her divorce, and a lot of women online and feminists are losing their minds over it. How unfair it is because her now ex-husband's getting so much. But women make out pretty well. And in this day and age, right now, when so many women, obviously more than ever, are in the job market, they can go back to work. If, let's just say, they weren't working when the kids were early on when they were being raised, and let's just say they got divorced and they got to work, they can. So I don't know so much about that. It says here, those who worked before, during, or after their marriage experienced a 20% decline in income after divorce, compared with men whose incomes rose by 30%. Well, I don't know about that, but maybe somebody will correct me in the comments section. 40% of American children are now born to single mothers. 40%. That's a lot. This rate of non-marital births, combined with the nation's high divorce rate, means that around half of all American children will spend part of their childhood in a single-parent home. Social scientists across the political spectrum agree this family chaos is destructive. In 2017, the poverty rate for women-headed families with children was 36.5%, compared to 22.1% for father-only families and 7.5% for families headed by a married couple. and abundant data showed married adults are happier, healthier, and wealthier than singles. Well, I don't know about that. Um, I don't buy that, because pretty much most people I know that are married are somewhere between simply married after a few years. There is the honeymoon period that people have, but married after a few years with kids, they're somewhere between living together as roommates and basically being friends with no romantic attraction whatsoever, and occasionally hooking up, for sexual relief, or on the extreme end, absolutely hate each other's guts and they stay together only for the kids or financial security. And most people somewhere in between. It's rare in these days to see a couple that's been married for a while that actually are really, truly love each other and have fun together, and you can probably tell have an active sexual relationship and have a fun social life. It's rare. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I can count on my hand the number of couples I've seen in my life that are like that, but it's rare. And as for healthier, a lot of people that are married actually are more unhealthy because they get so used to just not having to do anything. Like, hey, I'm married, there's a ring on her finger, and guys don't do shit. They sit on their ass and they drink their beer and watch the sports in the weekend at night and don't do anything. And the women, because guys don't court them anymore and don't take them out, they feel unloved, so they then cut their hair, they gain weight, they stop dressing sexy, and then because they gain a lot of weight and don't look as good as they did, the guy doesn't want to touch them, and then they gain more weight and become more unhappy, and it's a vicious cycle. So I don't know about the healthy part. As for wealthier, you have two people that live together, sure, they can, let's say a man and woman, they both work and raise kids and they're married. Sure, they're living under one household. They can obviously both contribute financially. They can then obviously, two people are paying for the mortgage, the electric bill, cable, you name it, as opposed to two separate households have to pay. So in that thing, I get the wealthy thing, but healthy and happy, no. It says the sexual revolution has skived through the institution of marriage, leaving millions of women without love and emotional and financial security that they and their children so need. It hasn't been a picnic for men either. Recent studies about the effects of fatherlessness has revealed that the rise of single parent, and it says in parentheses, which usually means mother only, because let's be honest here, the courts pretty much always have the kids go with the mom, families has had even worse consequences for boys and girls. Father absence in African American homes leads to more mental health and behavioral problems for boys, according to an MIT study by two economists looking at brothers and sisters born in Florida between 1992 and 2002. It says here, and this is someone being quoted, growing up in a single-parent home appears to significantly decrease the probability of college attendance for boys, but has no similar effect for girls. They found other worrisome effects too. Fatherless boys are less ambitious, less hopeful, and more likely to get in trouble at school than fatherless girls. I'm not surprised there, because there's a lot of things that can define masculine energy, but one of it is ambition and drive and things like that. I'm not saying that women don't have that, but that's a core of masculine energy. Also, achieving new things and going against, breaking through barriers, things like that. And if you don't, as a boy, don't see that growing up, why are you going to do it? And especially also these boys, like I said earlier in the video, that the single moms, they tend to be easier on the boys than they would, say, their daughters. And so the boys are probably used to their moms doing things for them. And I know this very well because I have some nephews in my family. I see this happen. I've been seeing this happening for years. And so that doesn't surprise me in the least about this. It says here, everything is connected. When more boys are growing up without fathers, there are fewer younger men who become the kind of adults women want to marry. Educated, employed, non-drug abusing, and not involved with the criminal justice system. Well, a lot of women like the bad boys. They're definitely gotten a little trouble with the law, but let's be honest here. But taking that aside, without the grounding of marriage, men become disconnected from society. Some 22% of prime-age men, 25 to 54, are not working or looking for work. Unmarried men are overrepresented in this group. By contrast, married men with only high school diplomas are much more likely to be employed than unmarried men with some college or an associate's degree. Well, I guess the guys that are married obviously got to take care of their families and so forth. But there may be some truth to that statistic, but that's why in this channel I'm encouraging you guys, number one, don't get married, because we all know darn well through past experiences, whether it be our own or people we've known in our families and friends, the hell that which is marriage and how you simply don't need it. Now, obviously, if you have children, if you're divorced, if I had children and I was divorced, I would do everything I can to be in that boy's life. I'd demand to have them more in my life if, say, the mother got them. But, the courts are the courts. It is how it is, but I would do my best. But in terms of, guys being unmarried, and obviously this article talks about not being ambitious, not going for things and so forth. That's why I encourage guys here to go be self-improvement, getting your life together, going for your goals, making things happen. All of us, there's so much unlimited potential that we all have. And to be honest, guys, if you want to live a life where you don't have to be married and you can pretty much go your own way and not have to deal with any women, and if you want to date women, cool, but that's the end of it. You don't have to rely on, say, married to a woman or living with them as a roommate to split the bills. This is why I want you guys to bust your ass in terms of making money, going for what you want, improving yourself so you can financially have that freedom, because money is freedom, let's be honest here. And that way then you don't need any of this. You don't need anybody else to help support you, and you can live your life the way you want. Articles, it's almost done here, says diseases of despair, alcoholism, overdoses, suicide have been rising among white working class Americans, the very population that has witnessed a steep decline in family stability over the past several decades. Most women want and need upright, well-adjusted, dependable men to serve as co-anchors of healthy and happy families. The feminist movement was deeply misguided to take aim at marriage. Far from oppressing women, it offers safe foundations for a full life. There's a lot of truth to that. But at the end of the day, when they say how, right here, I'm going to read it again, most women want and need upright, well-adjusted, dependable men to serve as co-anchors. Well, a lot of them want men to basically pay all the bills and, as they call the beta male providers, and it hasn't tapped into the article about how women in their 30s and 40s, because they spent their whole 20s, as the feminist movement has taught them through the sexual revolution, to basically live it up, and I don't need to get into detail there, and also doing things for their careers, and they get to their 30s and 40s, and they're ready to settle and find the good man. Guys aren't interested. They're not interested because they're gaining this knowledge that marriage ain't what it's cracked up to be, what it's sold in the movies and TV. So they're saying the hell with it. And they're having rotations. They're simply just dating women, and that's it. End of story. They're not doing that. Or also, a lot of the men in their 30s and 40s that are single, why would they date women in their 30s and 40s when they've got their shit together and they can date hot women in their 20s? So I think over time that a lot of these things will start to balance out, but it's going to take a while. Anyhow, guys, so that's it for today. Be sure to let me know what you think about this in the comment section. Have you guys known situations, or you yourself have been involved, where you've seen, children raised in a single parent household, the impact it's had compared to, say, your generation, maybe when you were raised by two parents, and especially with boys? I'd like to know about that with regards to the boys, because I've seen what they're talking about here with the boys. Definitely there's a lot of truth to that. And also, guys, be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time.